Hi, if you're watching this video, it's out of date! Everything has happened within the last 48 hours, and tomorrow, about 10 times everything is gonna happen again. So I'm gonna talk about the stuff that has happened for sure, and then I'm gonna set up Free Agency Day 2019, which sounds like it's gonna be ridiculous. One, this trade was literally finalized in between me making a video and uploading it. Colin Miller is now a Buffalo Sabre. Colin Miller is a super interesting figure in the NHL. He seems to have good numbers. He seems to have a decent contract. Vegas made him a healthy scratch in the playoffs. And as a result, all he cost was a second and a fifth. So this is what I said on Twitter about the trade pertaining to the Leafs, but it really applies to everyone. Well, how come my team couldn't pay that price? My assumption is they could have. They just didn't want to. Now, I think it's a great trade for Buffalo, and I think they immediately improved their defense. People are talking about how it pertains to Rasmus Ristolainen and, oh, they can trade him now. Not necessarily. I think anytime you strengthen a position, you make the players who are already existing in that position better. For example, Rasmus Ristolainen, his advanced stats are poo. Add a good player to that position, strengthening that position, and all of a sudden taking the burden off him, maybe they become less poo. It seems super weird that Vegas seemingly had no use for him, and Gerard Gallant is not a dumb coach, so there's maybe something there. But in the meantime, that's just a great trade for both teams. Vegas didn't even use the guy and desperately needed to dump some cap. And the Sabres improve on defense, which is a serious area of need. Before we get to Phil Kessel, there was a goalie trade. Carolina trades Scott Darling to the Florida Panthers in exchange for James Reimer. This is really interesting because at the time of shooting this, Scott Darling, who played most of the season in the minors last year, is for sure getting bought out. Also at the time I'm shooting this, it's not confirmed that Reimer is going to get bought out. The Panthers also get a 6th round pick as a sweetener. It's not much of one, but they get it. If they buy out Reimer, it becomes a moot point. But if you're the Carolina Hurricanes, last season you had one of the best tandems in the league, and somehow it was Peter Mrazek and Curtis McElhinney. Maybe you bet on yourself that you're smart enough to help James Reimer recover from one of the worst, if not the worst, seasons of his career. You know me, you know my unabashed love for James. I know he had a terrible year, but look at the rest of his career. It suggests that he's better than that. Look at his numbers on Florida, they were terrible. Michael Hutchinson's were worse, and everyone seems to like him. The difference is for Reimer, expectations are higher. Why? Because he used to be much better. If you're Carolina, do you make that bet? Maybe, maybe. To me, they're both really interesting free agent options if both of them get bought out. They have Colin D'Elia, but there's nothing the Blackhawks love more than getting the band back together, and I wonder if Scott Darling could be an option as a backup, more likely a third goalie for the Blackhawks. Whereas James Reimer, I feel like could be an excellent, cheap option for basically anybody. It's not guaranteed he bounces back. Nothing's guaranteed in this league, dude. I think he's a decent bet. Phil Kessel is an Arizona Coyote. The trade. Phil Kessel and his beautiful $6.8 million cap hit, Dane Burks and a 2021 4th round pick for Alex Galchenyuk and Pierre-Olivier Joseph. Joseph, by the way, is a 2017 first rounder, a left-hand defenseman out of the QMJHL, 6'0" and 160 pounds, roughly. For all the fans I've seen concerned about his weight on Twitter, if he wants to get bigger, he probably could. You can't teach getting taller. And look around the league, little guys are doing pretty well these days. For example, Artemi Panarin is about the same size and asking for about $12 million. Man, here's the thing. Phil Kessel is allegedly pretty hard to work with, right? But I'll go through his resume again. Here are his last 4 seasons with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Led them in scoring in a cup run, 45 points in 49 games in back-to-back cup runs, a 92-point season, that's a career high, followed by an 82-point season, still a point per game. And he hasn't missed a game since 2009. The #1 song on the Billboard Hot 100 chart the week that Phil Kessel's Iron Man streak began was Fireflies by Owl City. There have been 3 Winter Olympics since the last time Phil Kessel missed a hockey game. Listen, enough people have said it that I think we can safely assume Phil Kessel is a cantankerous, difficult person to work with. But I think it's also safe to say that he's extremely durable, successful, and a point-a-game player for less than $7 million against the cap. Now here's the thing. Phil Kessel is an extremely talented offensive player who is not very good at defense. Alex Galchenyuk is also not very good at defense. That's it. Listen, I didn't say look at Dom with the chart. You can trust the chart. Now that obviously doesn't tell the entire story about both players, especially Alex Galchenyuk, who has had a complicated career and a complicated last season. He started it injured. He makes $4.9 million against the cap. That's not very much, so that suits the Penguins, but I just feel like they gave up a sure thing, a definite offensive juggernaut of a player in Phil Kessel for Alex Galchenyuk, who Gauch has to look at this as an amazing opportunity. He's probably going to get a chance to play next to either Sid or Gino, and if he can't score at least 30 goals with those guys, it might be time to just wrap up hoping that that ever happens. He's still kind of young, he's coming off a rough couple years, and he's in a contract year on the Penguins. The Penguins are getting a motivated player. Can that make up for the fact that he's not as good as the player that the Penguins traded away? Now we get into the area of maybe. So, it sounds like the Leafs are trading Nikita Zaitsev and possibly someone else, it sounds like maybe Connor Brown, to the Ottawa Senators in exchange for Cody Ceci. There's, oh my god, there's a lot there. There's a lot of Spider-Man pointing at himself meme going on about this trade for sure. So listen, this trade is not worth freaking out about just yet because, well, one, we don't know if it's official, and two, we have no idea if the Leafs plan on keeping Cody Ceci or what. Cody Ceci made over $4 million last season. He could potentially ask for even more than that in salary arbitration. To me, it doesn't make any sense for the Leafs to sign a guy who's as bad as Zaitsev, if not worse, to more money if the purpose of the trade is to clear cap. I could, for sure, envision a world where it makes sense to sign him. Maybe, but not to that number. Nope, no way, no thank you. Where the deal, the theoretical deal that hasn't technically happened yet, is good, is the fact that, dude, Zaitsev's gonna make that 4.5 for another half a decade. Getting out from under that is awesome. One option is the Leafs could go to salary arbitration with Cody Ceci, and then he gets his award, and then the Leafs go, that's nice, and then they walk away, and then all of a sudden, from that trade, they've just completely freed up between $6 and $7 million between Zaitsev and Brown. It could be a fantastic trade for the Leafs, a masterclass, but until we know all the details, I don't know. Could be a win, could be a loss, could be somewhere in the middle. I have no idea. I will say this ahead of time. People are laughing at the fact that Connor Brown could be the sweetener going to the Sens. Just because the Leafs can't afford Connor Brown anymore doesn't mean he sucks. He was a luxury for this team. I actually think Ottawa is a really good fit for him. And Sens fans, if you're watching this, I'm being 100% honest. He barely makes over $2 million. It's practically no risk. He's scored 20 goals before. He can kill penalties. He's played on the power play before. If you give him the opportunity, I think he'll do something with it. I really do. But having him play fourth line minutes on a cap-strapped team made no sense. And then there's the Sens who, don't have players at the moment. There's a lot going on there. And there's a lot going on tomorrow. I'm going to answer some questions and then I'm going to tell you the deal, all right? No. Enjoy the day. We both know I can't do that. What if the Leafs trade Zaitsev for Ceci and then flip him for Reimer? First of all, don't play with my heart. Second of all, while that would be lovely, who's gonna play defense for them next season? Anyone? Do you think Phil Kessel's disconnect with coaches, GMs, and some media members is an actual negative against him or a sign that he actually has a backbone? Well, this is what I was saying about Phil Kessel in the last video, because when he got traded from the Leafs to the Penguins, part of the fun of it for the Penguins wasn't just that they won a cup, won back-to-back cups actually, it was all the teammates embracing him and taking pictures with him and dressing up in hot dog costumes and being like, look, Phil, we love Phil. How could you not love Phil? Look, we love Phil, he's awesome. It doesn't sound like his relationship with Jim Rutherford was all that good, and I don't know if I would take that as a slight on his character. I don't care if Rutherford's in the Hall of Fame now. Well, he built a team that won back-to-back Stanley Cups. Yeah, and then he dismantled it for no reason. I'm all for GMs getting creative when they don't know what to do, but it seems like the Penguins for the last year, especially last year, were like, how about this, and then that, and then that, and so much change for the sake of change, not to mention signing Jack Johnson. So is Phil Kessel a taxing guy? Yeah, probably. But he seems to have proven that he's worth it. Maybe he's just the old school John Tortorella of hockey players. He gets out there and he makes an impact right away and everyone's energized and he's awesome, and after a while you're like, enough of this person, get rid of him. And I'm not saying he's a bad coach, I'm just saying I don't want him to be the coach here anymore. And then he's gonna go to the Coyotes, and I assume he's gonna be awesome, because he's always awesome. He's money in the bank. Kesselzona is gonna be fun. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for the Ceci era? What are your thoughts on James Reimer becoming a jerk? My thoughts are Shaylin, apologize. Sekera on a league min 1-year deal? Oh yeah, forgot to mention that the Oilers bought out Andre Sekera, so that's interesting. They all of a sudden become a player with a little bit of room to play with. But one thing we gotta get out of the way, not everyone who gets bought out is gonna sign a league min deal. You think Corey Perry's about to do that? Because I don't. I think teams like Andre Sekera, they just don't like him for $5 million. I think teams like Corey Perry, they just don't like him for $8 million. 1? 2? Maybe 3? Who knows? Now, here's what I think is going to happen tomorrow. The market is being held up by 3 or 4 teams right now. The Florida Panthers, who essentially don't have a goalie, but they have a ton of cap space. The Colorado Avalanche, who have a ton of cap space. The Columbus Blue Jackets, who have a ton of cap space, and also no one really seems to want to go there. And the New York Islanders, who have a ton of cap space. And you can throw the Preds in there because it seems like they put all their eggs in the Matt Duchene basket, and it might not happen. And on that note, you know what? You could throw the Habs in there as well. Ah, geez, the Blackhawks too, who are all of a sudden apparently getting Anders Lee, and Tampa, who doesn't have a salary cap, might get Pavelski. There's obviously going to be a bunch of free agent players, and that's not even to say the RFA teams. I have no idea what's going on there. I assume they all re-sign because that's the way it's gone for a very long time, with very few exceptions. The teams most active in the trade market after July 1st and all those signing bonuses are given out and some guys come off the board, I expect to be Vegas, the Leafs, the Flames, and I'm going to go with the Oilers because they typically have trouble signing guys, and the Minnesota Wild because I don't think Paul Fenton's done being nuts. Alright, so here's what's going to happen. This is my channel, my personal channel, Steve Dangle. Hi, hello. Tomorrow I'm going to be at Sportsnet in their digital studio making YouTube videos for their channel, which is just Sportsnet. Very easy to find. You're going to want to go there and you're probably going to want to subscribe because I'm going to be making videos there all day, man. Like a lot, I think. With producer Drew, the producer, and I'm sure there's going to be tons of hat picks and also dang-its. I'm very excited. I know you're excited. The fans are excited. Melnick is excited. Everybody's excited. Silly season. Let's go. So that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends what you think is going to happen, and then promptly watch that not happen. Like, at all. Like, not even close. You won't even be close. Seriously.